My being charming, Harriet, is not quite enough to induce me to marry. I must find other people charming, one other person at least. And I am not only not going to be married at present, but have very little intention of ever marrying at all. Emma, is there any wonder that that's the book Eloise was reading in Bridgerton Season 3? A lot of the Bridgerton show characters are very different from their book counterparts, and that's definitely the case for Eloise. In the books, she was always fine with the idea of marriage, even eager for it. She turned down a lot of proposals and ended up a spinster, but that wasn't her intention in the beginning. On the show, however, Eloise has been very vocal about her disdain for the idea of marriage, and in Season 4 she's even been calling herself a spinster. Even in Season 3, which is definitely when she tried the hardest to fit into the role society expected of her, she wasn't really looking for a husband. She was just more open to dressing fashionably and socializing with other debutantes. Obviously, this is going to make it a little bit harder to adapt her book. It's not that hard to believe that book Eloise, who has always had an interest in marriage but never found the right person, would run off to meet a guy that she's connected with over letters and see if it would work out to get married. It's a little bit harder to believe that show Eloise would do that just because she's never seemed interested in the idea to begin with, and even this season when they're showing her that the life of a spinster is not necessarily what she wants, she doesn't seem particularly interested in a husband just for the sake of having a husband either. On that note, I think it's really important that when Eloise is reading a novel in Season 3, it's Emma, because Emma Woodhouse is a very similar character to Eloise as she's portrayed on the show. For one thing, neither of them intends to marry. That's made very clear in conversations between Emma and her father, as well as Emma and her friend Harriet, like the one that I was reading at the beginning of this video. The conversation goes on, and Emma says this: "I have none of the usual inducements of women to marry. Were I to fall in love, indeed, it would be a different thing. But I have never been in love. It is not my way or my nature, and I do not think I ever shall. And without love, I am sure I should be a fool to change such a situation as mine. Fortune I do not want, employment I do not want, consequence I do not want. I believe few married women are half as much mistress of their husband's house as I am of Hartfield." And it goes on a little bit further, but basically the gist of it is that Emma is not under any pressure to marry, and she's not in love, so why would she get married? Spoiler alert, she does fall in love and she does get married, but she marries for love and only for love, because romantic love is the only thing she's lacking and the only reason she would ever be persuaded to give up her independence. Let's be clear, this is very different from Elizabeth Bennet turning down Mr. Collins. Emma, unlike Elizabeth, is under absolutely no financial pressure and no family pressure to get married. She easily turns down Mr. Elton. It's not even a big deal, except that Emma was so oblivious she didn't realize he was courting her and was instead trying to set him up with Harriet. Emma also talks Harriet out of getting married to Robert Martin. That's not actually a good thing. Harriet likes Robert Martin, and Emma's aspirations of helping Harriet marry up into Emma's own social class are misguided at best. It's not likely to happen. But she believes that she's doing Harriet a favor, both in encouraging her to hold out for someone better, and also in trying to preserve their friendship, because she knows that if Harriet became the wife of a tenant farmer, their friendship would be considered socially inappropriate and probably wouldn't be able to continue. I can totally see Eloise strongly identifying with this desire to hold on to friendship, because at this point, Eloise's friendship with Penelope has fallen apart. She has figured out that she's Lady Whistledown. She has yet to forgive her for that. Even though ending the friendship was Eloise's choice, I can still see why, having lost a friendship like that herself, she could empathize with someone who wants to hold on to it at all costs. Emma has a tendency to assume that she is always right and that other people's opinions are not really important or valid. You can see that especially in her interference with Harriet's love life. Eloise is a little bit similar. Her Season 2 character arc involves her being pushed out of her comfort zone a little bit and challenged, and I think we see something similar in Emma's relationship with Mr. Knightley. Now, I'm not going to argue that Theo is or should be Eloise's love interest for, the long term, because I think even though they've made some changes from the books, that's not going to be one of them. It'll be Sir Philip Crane, who we met briefly in seasons 1 and 2, and who, spoiler alert for To Sir Philip with Love, is soon to be a widower and Eloise's pen pal. But I do wonder if her reading Emma and the character development that Emma undergoes, and also the circumstances under which she eventually does marry, are maybe foreshadowing for how Eloise's story will go. I kind of hope so, because I could see that working a lot better for her than the way that the story unfolds in the book. I think out of the Bridgerton books that I have read, hers is the one that requires the biggest changes. She's just so different from her book counterpart that it's difficult to envision her making the same choices that her book counterpart does. For example, while I can definitely see show Eloise running off for some reason and not telling her family where she's going, I have a harder time imagining her being so desperate to be married that she runs off to essentially a potential marriage of convenience. Likewise, I have trouble imagining her being so terrified of scandal that she lets herself be pushed into a marriage she's not ready for and isn't sure if she wants, just to avoid there being a scandal. But I can definitely picture the letter writing and Eloise pairing up with kind of a nerdy guy who values her for her mind rather than just her physical appearance or her family name and wealth. And I think if they play it right, they can have there be sort of a mutual respect, as well as a potential for both of them to grow and to develop into better people as a result of their relationship with each other. I really hope, though, that the whole "you have to marry him" thing ends up playing out a little bit differently. I would love it if Eloise said no and refused to be obligated to do that, even if it means that her reputation is kind of ruined. Let her defy the expectations of the time, as she's already shown herself to be so inclined to do. And then, later on, let her decide to marry him of her own accord for her own reasons on her own terms, thus making it her choice and mirroring the thing from Emma about "I have none of the usual inducements of women to marry." I just feel like with the personality and the attitude that she's had so far, for her to fall in love and get married, it has to be 100% her choice and on terms that she is okay with. Otherwise, it won't feel like a convincing happy ending. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Eloise and her upcoming romance and the importance of the novel Emma in her story. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!